She's the waifu that no one can resist. She makes the situation for the D-Gen players even worse. She's the one and only femme fatale, witch of the mere Tenebria. Hello everyone, Shabang here. Today, let's talk about Witch of Mere Tenebria. She's a character with extremely strong suppression abilities. She has been dubbed the must-pull waifu by players due to her sexy appearance and powerful skill set. However, to be fair, although Tenny is positioned as a torment control character with both control abilities and dual attack capabilities, her constellation does not enhance the effectiveness from imprints, and she cannot soul burn to ignore effect resistance. This makes it very challenging to gear her up, resulting in unstable performance. Choosing Tenny as opener will result in a high probability of facing a resistance team as a counter, or being outraced to counter her. Tenny cannot use a single build to counter both situations. Therefore, blindly picking her as the opener does not result in a good gaming experience. As the ranks increase, Tenny's pick priority will gradually move down, being used as a purposeful and targeted counter pick. If you feel confused about how to use Tenny, just follow me as we move forward. Let's start by looking at her stats and build to help you perfect your Tenny. A character's build is closely related to their skill set, so we will start by refining the stats that Tenny needs. First, Tenny is positioned as a Torment-type support. The damage multipliers for her attack skills are all 1.0, so stacking output will not yield damage. Therefore, attack, critical hit chance, and critical hit damage are all ineffective stats, should be excluded. As a controller, all three of her skills contain debuffs, so effectiveness is an extremely important stat for Tenny. For a controller like Tenny, turn priority is quite important. Additionally, after using her skill 3, Tenny can increase her combat readiness by 50%. Speed is also an important stat for her. Finally, she needs to maintain a certain level of durability to support her presence on the battlefield. Health and defense are effective stats for her. Tenny does not possess strong self-preservation abilities. She can only enter stealth to protect herself after activating skill 2. Stacking effect resistance means sacrificing some durability and control capabilities. In such a build, Tenny might struggle to effectively control enemies, and is also susceptible to being quickly focused down. Therefore, it is generally not recommended to stack effect resistance, which is a relatively useless stat. We find 4 core stats for Tenny: effectiveness, speed, health, and defense. The differences in the distribution of these 4 stats determine Tenny's usage scenarios. Better be high speed or opener Tenny, or high effectiveness Tenny, or tank Tenny. This is worth our contemplation. First, let's talk about opener Tenny. Due to Tenny's base speed of 120, imprints do not provide any effectiveness, resulting in a base effectiveness of 0%. Additionally, her skill 3 does not ignore effect resistance. Therefore, it is difficult to stack a sufficiently high effectiveness while achieving high speed. A Tenny with high speed and low effectiveness in the band pick phase may encounter a situation where her skill 3 is completely resisted, leading to a scenario where the opponent has full effect resistance. Therefore, it is not recommended to equip her with the fastest gear for opener use. In the case of not being an opener, since Tenny lacks counterattack capability, the gear setup should assume that the allied will take the initiative to achieve the regular 20% combat readiness from the opener ally to bring Tenny up. Tenny's speed generally needs to be controlled at around 80% of the opener speed. Assuming the ally opener speed range is between 310 and 320, Tenny's speed should be above 250, under the premise of confirming a minimum speed above 250. The remaining stats should be balanced between durability and effectiveness. The specific effectiveness depends entirely on the player's own usage scenario for Tenny. If you want to maximize Tenny's control ability in her first turn, you need to stack effectiveness as much as possible, aiming for an effectiveness of over 280%, including artifacts, to counter resistance teams. If you are using her to counter regular resistance tanks, such as Basaranka, the effectiveness can be maintained between 200% and 230%. However, those 2 setups can easily be focused down and killed if her team loses the first turn. I highly recommend keeping the effectiveness around 100% to ensure that you can suppress the opponent's DPS and regular units with under 100% effect resistance. Stack as much bulk as possible to survive on the battlefield and utilize Tenny's skill 1 to dual attack. In summary, Tenny cannot soul burn to ignore resistance, and no gear setup can handle every situation. Players should allocate stats based on their needs, and consider whether their team has the initiative and if the opponent has specific targets to counter when picking Tenny. We recommend a standard setup for Tenny with speed controlled between 250 to 260. If you often pre-ban Basaranka in RTA, there's generally no need for around 200% effectiveness against target characters. In this case, having around 200% effectiveness is somewhat inadequate. It may not be enough to control high resistance characters, and for characters with around 100% resistance or no resistance, it wastes nearly 100 stats. Therefore, we recommend two setups: 100% effectiveness tank Tenny and high effectiveness Tenny. Among them, 100% effectiveness tank Tenny is used for most battles, maximizing the dual attack capability of her skill. Highly recommended. High effectiveness tank Tenny is used to counter teams with resistance such as Disciplinary Prefect RTA and Empyrean Ilyov. In terms of gear sets, the recommendations are Speed set, plus Effectiveness set, or Immunity set. Due to the lack of effectiveness for Tenny, the Effectiveness set is the preferred choice for the two-piece set. This will ensure that teammates are responsible for guaranteeing her action capability. In terms of artifacts, you can use Umbral Keystones, Magic Bubble Maker, and Tagiel's Ancient Book. The Magic Bubble Maker is mainly used to enhance effectiveness and randomly applies debuffs to skill 2. However, the triggering frequency is relatively low. It's important to note that Tenny's skill 3 is a non-attack skill, meaning it cannot activate the debuff from the artifact. Umbral Keystones not only offers a minor boost to effectiveness, but it also grants a 20% combat readiness, as long as teammates take 2 turns. This allows Tenny to seamlessly execute her combos more effectively. Besides, there aren't many characters using this artifact, and it has a high compatibility with Tenny. This means you won't have to compete with others for it. Here's the setup of the legendary high-rank player Wampi. Wampi has created 2 types of Tenebria for different match scenarios. The first is 100% effectiveness tank Tenny, with an average gear score of around 95 points. This tank team can ensure that even if teammates unfortunately fail to be opener, she won't be easily focused down or killed. The other type is high effectiveness Tenny, primarily used in matchups against resistance teams. Achieving high effectiveness is quite challenging while also ensuring a certain level of tankiness, so the speed is lowered. This setup is mainly aimed at dealing with high resistance teams that include Disciplinary Prefect Arya. You can adjust your setups based on your playstyle. I highly recommend 100% effectiveness tank Tenebria. Now, let's dive into combat explanation. Mere Tenebria's ban pick phase is crucial before battles. If not chosen wisely, the BP phase is often doomed to fail. Mere Tenebria, who lacks strong self-protection, generally needs a teammate who can act as an opener and take the first turn. She can then take her turn by either increasing her combat readiness through allies' skills or triggering Umbral Keystones after allies have taken 2 turns. Assuming your opener is 320 speed, then Tenny's speed should be around 256. In terms of skills, with the help of her teammates, Tenny gains her turn, uses skill 3 to isolate all enemies, and then increases her own combat readiness by 50%. On her next turn, she uses skill 2 to apply the rupture effect to the enemies, and enters stealth for self-protection. In the subsequent turns, she uses skill 1 to perform a dual attack with the ally who has the highest attack. After that, she can be taken out. The usual skill sequence is skill 3, skill 2, skill 1, and skill 1. In some specific situations, it may be necessary to use S2 first to enter stealth for self-protection, but this is not the standard choice. Currently, Tenny's win rate is below 50%. On one hand, the generally low win rates during the development phase contribute to this. On the other hand, as mentioned earlier, her effectiveness relies on certain requirements, such as gaining turn order, which is crucial. She can be very strong against tank or degeneration compositions, but she is also quite vulnerable and can easily lose if players do not perform well in the ban pick phase. There are 2 prerequisites for picking Mere Tenebria in the ban pick phase. I believe I can be the opener, or I believe the opponent cannot take me down before I act. In summary, Mere Tenebria possesses formidable suppression capabilities. She excels at non-contact crowd control, making her particularly effective in strategic engagements. However, in typical match scenarios, picking Mere Tenebria without a high degree of confidence in securing the initiative can be risky. Her fragile nature renders her heavily reliant on her teammates for protection. Consequently, there is a significant likelihood that she may be eliminated before she has an opportunity to act. It is generally not advisable to prioritize her selection early in the ban pick phase. However, if utilized effectively during the 4th to 5th picks, she can become a formidable asset. In the current RTA meta, we assign her a score of 7 for high-tier play and 6 for lower tiers, where she can take advantage of inexperienced players or create significant challenges for turn-2 players. Should tank compositions gain prominence in future patches, Mere Tenebria's viability may see an increase. Mir Tenebria has stringent gear requirements and places specific demands on her teammates and the ban pick phase. She is not a character that can be picked without consideration. Instead, she serves as a powerful counter against tank compositions. While she can elevate the performance of high-tier players, she also presents considerable challenges for those in lower tiers. As we wrap up, let's conclude with an exciting RTA match featuring tank Mir Tenebria. Thank you all for tuning in. I hope my insights have been helpful to you. If you enjoyed the content, please consider following me for more practical and high-quality game guides in the future. Your support means a lot. Thank you all. In this match, the opponent banned boss Aranka and lone wolf Piera. We had the first pick and opted for Rina, a character currently regarded as strong and easy to select in this version. The opponent responded with New Moon Luna and Abyssal Yofin. This combination presents a potential cleave strategy, and typically, they would lean towards picking a mid or Frida. However, both of these characters lack significant damage output. Given that Renak is unlikely to outrun Zio, and considering the speed of my Renak, I deduced that the opponent would not pursue a cleave strategy outside of Zio. Even if they did opt for Zio, I could effectively counter with Disciplinary Prefect Arya and Belian. After careful consideration, I was confident that the opponent would avoid a cleave strategy, prompting me to select Mir Tenebria as my second pick and prepare for a standard match. Upon observing my choice, the opponent recognized that a cleave approach would be unfeasible and therefore opted for a resistance-focused team to counter my Mir Tenebria and Hellion Lua. He subsequently picked Belian and Disciplinary Prefect Arya, solidifying his lineup. It became evident from his first 4 picks that his intention was to ban my Renak in order to engage in a standard match. However, the selection of Belian revealed a vulnerability in his strategy, allowing me to confidently pick Last Rider, Crow, and Laia as a combination. Regardless of his 5th pick, I was prepared to counter with a ban, ensuring that Mir Tenebria would remain unbanned. This match is shaping up to be an excellent opportunity to apply pressure on the turtle strategy.
是啊，现实是个很肮脏、很黑暗的地方，所以待在完美的梦中不是很好吗？呼唤我的名字吧，没有人能逃出我的五指山。哈哈哈！哭吧，哈哈哈！你来实现我的梦想吧，我会送你一个让你不想醒来的美梦。哈哈哈哈哈！